Hey there, I'm Zach, one of the co-founders of Clay. We've done thousands, literally thousands of individual onboarding calls with new Clay members, either individually or with their team. We've done them on Zoom calls and in person, and we've learned a ton about how people think about relationships and their network. And while we unfortunately can't onboard every new Clay member individually anymore, there's just not enough hours in the day, we wanted to put together a quick video of all the different best practices we've heard from people and sort of how we run those calls, what we like to ask, how to tweak Clay along the edges to make it work for your workflow. So I'm going to start with the Spark Notes in case you don't have a ton of time, and then we can dive into every section individually so we can get to some of the more nuanced points or customizations you can make. The first step is to make sure you have the right set of people in Clay to begin with. You can add new integrations and settings, and again, we support email, calendar, Twitter, LinkedIn, iMessage, Facebook, WhatsApp, a ton of different things. But some people also want to have a very small subset of people in Clay. You might not want to have every person you've ever met. You want to have only a few hundred or a few thousand people. And to do that, you can do a quick cleanup. The easiest way to do that is to go to search and then click on this cleanup old contacts tip. That will show you people that you haven't talked to in a while, and then you can bulk archive them. After that, we like to ask, what are your personal and professional relationship goals? Depending on how you answer that, you can create a few initial groups, things like people that I'm closest to, or mentors, or quarterly. However you think about people, create a few groups for them, add people to those groups, and then you can set a reconnect cadence per group so that Clay will remind you about each of the people in that group every month, quarter, or year. And the last step is to build a habit around Clay. Again, a mindfulness sort of practice that helps you remember people over time. And Clay has a ton of settings to tweak to make that happen. If you go to settings in the top right here, you'll see that we have different toggles for what you get in your home feed, how often we notify you about particular things, your email settings. There's a ton of power in the customizations we have there, so take a look there. So let's dive into the first point and then take it from there. Number one is I have 13 or 14,000 people in Clay. It's everybody that I've ever met. And I love being able to search by anything, keyword, old previous job title, where we met, when we met. That's how I think about people. But I've talked to some other people who are much more curated about how they think about their relationships. They want to just have a very small subset of people. Maybe you're coming from a spreadsheet where you just have the 20 people you wrote down and you want to remember those people. That's totally fine too. And so the way I like to frame this is, are you a curator? Are you, going through a few sort of very carefully selected people in your life? Or are you a collector? Are you, going through everybody that you've ever met and sort of refining from there? And Clay works for both. You just have to sort of understand how you're thinking about it and then clean up people at the beginning to make sure that that's aligned with how you think about your goals. So the easiest way to clean up people, the first way is you can go to search and then go to that clean up old contacts tip. That will show you people that you haven't talked to in the last 5 years or so. You can bulk archive or go through one by one, right click on them, press archive. You can also use our advanced search terms to find segments of people really easily. So last met is an example of that. You can do something like org:, which allows you to search for people from a particular company. -LinkedIn, which means not LinkedIn, so people that I'm not connected with on LinkedIn, or even something like email count less than 2, which lets you say, okay, who are people that I haven't emailed that much? You can combine these together to get really sort of specific about the types of people you're looking for. You can also go to the people view and then click on the sort button in the top right to sort people based off of either relevance or recency descending. And what that will do is say, show me the people that I haven't talked to in a while or that I don't know that well. Start with that list. You can use your keyboard or your mouse to navigate through those and then archive people in bulk. If you want the full set of advanced search terms, they're available here at go.clay.earth/search-tips. Once you've selected the people you have in Clay, and again, it doesn't have to be perfect, you can clean up people over time, a good next step is creating a few groups. And the way I like to think about that is, what are your personal and professional relationship goals? Are you trying to rekindle old relationships? Are you trying to meet a bunch of new people, and how do you think about people today? A lot of people will have some existing sort of lightweight categorization, something like monthly, quarterly, annually, or advisors, clients, friends, or even tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Again, Clay has all of the raw ingredients to help you build that organization. And so groups are the right way to do that. Go ahead and create a few groups, add people to the groups by either dragging them over or using the options in the top right. And then for every group, if you go in to edit the group, you can select a color, which is really nice. And then you can also select a reconnect cadence. Now, what is reconnect? By default, Clay will remind you about 3 people a day it thinks you should be thinking about. Now, you don't have to reach out to those people. You can use this as a way to organize your people over time. So every day, look at those 3 people, decide if you want to archive them or add them to a group. That's a great way of doing it. The other thing you can do is just passively look at whether they changed jobs or are in the news. Use your home feed for that. It's a great way to stay up to date. Now, Clay's using the information it has to suggest those people. But if you have more specific information, like your tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, what you can do is go into the group and set a specific cadence for each group. So you can do something like monthly for my client list and then quarterly for my mentors, something like that. You can choose how you want to do that. You can also choose auto, which is the default, or none. So if you have a bunch of people that you want to show up in Clay search, but you don't want to be reminded about them, you can add them to a group called maybe past connections or something, and then set the reconnect cadence to none, and you won't be reminded about them. So Groups has a lot of power to help you customize Clay along the edges to be exactly the subset of people and reminders that you want to receive. Other than that, you can use notes on people individually to tag people or set reminders, link people together. But again, we like to say, start slowly. You don't have to get to a perfect address book on day one. It's a lot of data. And so the reason Clay works is by giving you a few people a day, it helps you identify here are the people that maybe you should be thinking about, and you don't have to go through the entire people list at the beginning. Last step, building a habit, building a mindfulness habit around people is really hard. We like to say, go to settings and choose what types of reminders and updates you want to get about the people you have in Clay. Now, I like getting the reconnect reminders every morning. It reminds me about a handful of people a day that I should be thinking about. I also get birthday reminders from Facebook and the ones that I've manually set. And it's always reminding me about people that I maybe want to send a gift to. The home feed is a great place to get updates about your network. So job changes, people in the news, location changes, and all of that is designed to help you find a great reason to reach back out. Now again, Clay is not a networking tool necessarily. You don't have to email every person in your Clay every day. That's not what we're trying to do. We don't love transactional behavior. In fact, what we're trying to do is make it really natural to introduce serendipity into your life. People that you maybe haven't thought about in a while, to sort of eliminate that mental barrier where you only really think about the people that you've met in the last few weeks. But there's a whole subset of people in your network that you haven't talked to in a while that could be a great fit for your next job, your next professional relationship, for a deal you're working on, whatever it is. So that's high level how we like to think about the onboarding flow. If you have questions about that, we are always here to help. We have a ton of resources in our library, library.clay.earth. And always say hi on social media. We're ClayHQ on Twitter, LinkedIn, etc. And email us, care@clay.earth. We are a small team. We read every email, and we do our best to respond in a timely manner. So hope that was helpful, and look forward to chatting with you soon. Thanks.